total of 998, approximately 1,000 were registered. Only about 250 are still living, so feel privileged that you're one of those. I'm not sure whether those of us who stayed at home and, as to say, worked the home farm were better or worse off than those who had to immigrate or seek work elsewhere. In my own case, circumstances at the time prevented me from doing something different. We all have memories of our days at the old school. I suppose very few of us liked going to school, but we wouldn't mind turning back the clock and doing it all over again. I remember each morning when I went around Redner's Turn hoping that the school would be either burned down or on fire. I regarded myself as a very ordinary pupil, and it was only when I went to the vocational school in Kershcarrigan I realised how much I had learned in Fenagh, and that I was much better educated than most of my colleagues and comrades. Thanks to Master Inn and Mrs. Gannon, I was well equipped for the trials and challenges of life. When we started on this reunion campaign, the committee members were apprehensive. As I look around here today, I realise there was no need to be. We are simply overjoyed because our efforts are richly rewarded by this excellent turnout of past pupils. I would like to thank all who helped in any way to make this weekend possible. Our sponsors, all who placed advertisements in the magazine, all who donated money, all who gave bits and pieces of memorabilia of the school and the past. John Ellis, who sponsored the postage, Father Doyle and the Board of Management for the use of this school. Because of the fact that the church is under reconstruction, we were unable to have the celebrations in the community centre. Nevertheless, this school has worked very well, and I'm delighted that we had it and had the accommodation. I would like to thank my fellow committee members in a special way. They were an excellent group to work with. We had some great laughs together, and it helped to make the workload much lighter. Now, the committee members are Michael McKeown, Treasurer, Pat Rinn, PRO, Sun McLaughlin, Mary Bohan, Leo Byrne and Keelan Ellis. Have I left out somebody? Not really. Greta, our most efficient secretary. Now, I'm sure other committee members won't mind if I say a special thank you to Greta. Greta was the type of secretary all committees would like to have. She really kept everything moving in the right direction and left nothing to chance. I would also like to thank Jimmy Lennon and the Fenagh Development Committee, who worked in conjunction with us to make this weekend a weekend to remember in our village. And at that, I hope you all support the dances in the marquee on tonight and tomorrow night. I don't know what time to start, but I'm sure you'll find out. Lastly, I would like again to thank all of you for coming here this evening, especially those of you who travelled half the way around the world. And enjoy the festivities and go around Mila Mai Agav agus Banach Jeor of Golair.
Thank you very much, Pat Joe. We felt, the committee felt that it would be appropriate that a past student who lives abroad, who had come from abroad, should also be represented here in making a speech. So we got our heads together, and I think we had no difficulty in selecting the person we did. John Francis McManus is a friend to many people here. He returns very often. He's a man of great generosity. He has, I know, helped many people who have gone to London, helped them on their feet. I myself went when I was trying to earn a few pounds in summer holidays, and he looked after me very, very well. Many people have had a similar experience with John. We feel he's a very appropriate man to speak here. He's a great interest in the place, a great interest in the old school, in the community as it is today, and I would like you to put your hands together and welcome John here.
Well, with an introduction like that, it can only go downhill from here. Reverend Fathers, Reverend Sisters, ladies, gentlemen, Fenagh men and Fenagh women. It's good to be back. I left here in 1961 at the age of 16. I've been coming back for 38 years. I and many others here have made good lives elsewhere for our families and for communities. But each time I return down that Mull Road and I look down, and to my right I can see Fenagh Lake, and to my left Grey Lake, and in the distance the rectory and the village, and a tear comes to my eye, and I think, I'm home. There are, of course, older and wiser exiles here in this group who would be better suited to this job. I feel out of place, and it's presumptuous of me, in a way, to represent exiles. I'm talking about people like Jim Fox, whom I see over there in the group. He should really be here, or someone else like him. However, if the talk doesn't go well, blame the committee and Patrick Greenan. They were the ones who made the choice, and I won't forgive them. For me, this weekend started in about March of this year. One Saturday morning, sitting down at the end of the table in the kitchen to breakfast, eating the all bran. The roughish is good, you know. There was a white envelope propped up on the milk jug in front of me. And this white envelope had a green harp on, the insignia of Leinster House, the Republic. Now, when we get that kind of communication in England, it's got a crown on, and it's OHMS, on Her Majesty's service. And I can tell you that Her Majesty doesn't write to Irishmen in particular for any great reason. Other than perhaps to demand a tax, or to serve you with a speeding notice, or something even worse, you know. And I looked at this letter from Leinster House, and I thought, well, now, why would the government be writing to me? And then I saw the postmark. That's the next thing that took my eye on this, you know, this white envelope, not a brown envelope, nice white envelope. And that postmark was Connaughon on Motherua. Connaughon on Motherua. And I thought, well, I wonder where this hill could be in Leinster House, or and where could this Motherua be? You know, and then of course, I translated it, and it was the little hill of the red fox. And then, of course, things started to click. Little hill of the red fox. The little hill of the red dog, I thought first, but then it came to me, Motheroo, a fox, little hill of the red. Ah, it's Foxfield, it has to be Foxfield. And then, of course, I turned over the envelope, and on the back was Greta Fanning. And I thought, Greta Fanning, no, she's a stranger, whoever she is. But, of course, it wasn't, she wasn't a stranger, she was Greta Byrne. And then I realized on opening the letter that this was an invitation to an exile, to a special get-together. And the postage was, and the Leinster House connection came from John Ellis. I have a confession to make. Normally when I stand in a group like this, I get assistance from Arthur and John. That's Guinness and Jameson. I don't have that assistance today, so I'm flying solo. What did Fenagh National School mean? What does Fenagh National School mean to me? Well, of course, I would say, in a word, Fenagh National School gave us values. The values, the difference between right and wrong, bad and good. Do the decent thing. Don't tell lies. Help one another. Individuality. Think for yourself. Don't necessarily go with the herd and go with the crowd. Think for yourself. Make your own mind up. These values were also given to the oldest exiles here this evening. Jim Fox, I've already mentioned. Another, yet older, is Maggie Amelia of Vaden, who is 86 years. On behalf of the exiles, I thank all of those involved with this weekend, the whole of the organising committee. I won't repeat their names, they're in the book. Long live Fenagh, long live its people. Thank you very much.
John, I don't think you have anything to blame the committee for. You've done a good job. Very nice speech. Thank you. Part of John's speech referred to the letter arriving and the drama around that and the Oireachtas letter. And that leads me on to our next speaker. I'd like to call on our local public representative, John Ellis, TD, to say some words to the group gathered here. John.
How do you follow an act like that? Because John Francis, as I knew him, or John as we all know, I can remember him going to school. I can remember a lot of people here going to school. There's a lot of people here that I wasn't even a bad thought when they left out of Fenagh to go right around the world. When you come back today, and I suppose being one of the last who left the school, I left the school in 1964. I took early retirement then, because the fact was I left in 5th class. But what John Francis McManus has said, I think, has stayed with me in the very same way. That is the fact that we learned certain values in that school that we have taken with us, irrespective of where we went in life afterwards. When I left there, I hardly knew where Leinster House was. I probably didn't know at the time who the Taoiseach of the day was. But time changes everything for everybody, because you move on and you do different things. This committee here today, led by Patrick Greenan, in my opinion, has done more for this parish than has been done for it in quite a number of years. The last occasion in the parish like this was the opening of the football field. That was another big occasion where many exiles came back to celebrate that with the people who had remained at home. Some of us have had the benefit of being able to remain at home and remain in our own country. But for those who had to leave, it must be a big change to come back. And what John said about coming up and coming to the top of the hill and looking down over Bray and over Fenagh lakes, it's the same for me. I'm glad to come down that road most Thursday evenings, and when you come across at Gloucesterman, you say you're home. And home is where we all want to be as much time as possible, and home is where your heart is. For those who come back here today as immigrants, you will see an awful lot of changes. Some for the better, some for the worse. But we all come back, most of us, with one memory. That is of the teachers that taught us at that school. I remember Mrs. Hearden. I had her for only about 6 months. I told you a joke earlier on, and I'm not going to repeat, about the note that she sent home. It wasn't the first one that was sent home about me, nor it wasn't the last. And I've got them home since as a parent. But you have to accept those things as the world goes on. She taught us things. Miss Fitzsimons taught us things. And then I went into the master's room. The master to me was somebody whom we all feared, but who treated us all very, very fairly. And if you did your stuff, you hadn't to worry. If you misbehaved, you had to take the consequences. And it's the same in the world outside. If you do what you're supposed to do, you'll be okay. If you make mistakes, you pay for them. But I think that Master Wren, as John Francis McManus said, left us with values. And Patrick Green had said something earlier that was much more relevant. That was that when we left there, we had the basic grinding of a good education. Well, I left a year early, and I headed off to secondary school. And I managed to survive with the lads who had done 7th class in some cases, and the minimum that any of them had done was 6th. So that showed one thing, that we all left with a good grinding from national school. And we all left with good memories. If it was kicking an old ball at the back at the end of the school in 2 foot of mud and dirt, and at that stage Ben Wren was the best player that was around in my time, and for a long time afterwards, as far as the schoolyard football was concerned. But those are the memories that we all have. But to this committee, we owe a great debt of gratitude. We owe them the gratitude of bringing us all back together to celebrate 100 years of the old school as we knew it. But I would say one thing, and I see the principal of the present school here, Sheila Cooney, with us. Would somebody ever make sure that all the photos of the classes are stacked away in some cupboard, so that those who come after us, probably in 100 years' time, will be able to see how their fathers, grandfathers, or great-grandfathers, as the case may be, were educated, and who was in the class with them. Because we all know that when we look back, that is the one thing that probably we miss most, that many of the school group photographs are not available and have been lost. Not due to anybody's intention, but due to the fact that probably people brought them home and they thought that they looked better 20 years later and they decided it was time to get rid of it. But once again, to this committee, I think we all owe them a great debt of gratitude, and I'd ask everybody to put their hands together and give them a round of applause.
I'd like to thank Brian Kennedy here, who has brought a nice centrepiece to the outdoor activities here, his pony and trap. And that trap, as you know, is the old trap of Mrs. Scollin, the original, restored by Brian himself. And it has provided a great backdrop for photographs, and we would like very much to thank Brian for that. I'm sure you all have been in the room with the memorabilia. Some genuine pieces of the old school there, the old press of the master's room, the table as well. A few other objects on the table that you mightn't want to, well, you can comfortably look at now, but not back when you were in school you wouldn't. I'm sure you've all been around there, and if you haven't, don't miss it. We have some short piece of entertainment now with some the local dancers coming on. It's fairly brief, but nonetheless, I hope you'll enjoy it. So, our dancers are Noreen Tubman, Aoife Rinn, Leonora Nellis, Davina Lynn, Sinead McLaughlin, Laura Doonan, Adeline McQueenie, Tracy McLaughlin, Jeanette Lynn, and Liam Reynolds.